Hey, what's up guys? Josh Stover here with Stover's Motors. Today, we're working on a pontoon boat. This is for a friend's boat. Had some issues with it. Bought this thing from a dealer, a used dealer. Bought the boat used. Has not had a successful lake trip with the thing yet. Let's dive into the story and I'll share with what's going on and what we're going to be doing to rectify this.
Oh, I guess it's story time. So, my buddy purchased this boat, bought it used, hasn't had good luck with it all summer. We're now getting into the winter months, and as you can see, we've had some engine troubles. We got this thing all torn apart right now. We got all the bolts right here, new parts right here, head, flywheel, engine cover, all that's right there. So, what we have diagnosed is I went over to his house, went to go check out the engine. He thought he was having fuel problems. Was a fuel problem. After taking it out about 5 different times, not having any luck, he finally went out on the last holiday of the summer and did not have a good time. The boat still would not run, having issues with it. So he asked if I would come over, take a look at it. I come over, pull the dipstick, which is down underneath here, pull the dipstick on it. We've got water in the engine oil, typically an indicator of a bad head gasket. So go ahead, do a little bit further diagnosing. Cylinders 1 and cylinder 3 both have good compression. Cylinder number 2, bad. It had, I think these two had 150 or 175 psi, and this one had like 75. So was pretty confident that we had a bad head gasket. Went ahead and confirmed that with not only compression tests, but we also checked the spark plug. We did have water in the cylinder, so very good indicator that we do have a blown head gasket, as well as over here. This is the where's it at? Yeah, up underneath here. That's what I forget what they call it. I call it the piston line, but the piston line's where all the water comes out. Water pumps up from the water pump down there, comes up, cools the engine, goes back out the motor. But this is the check. If water's coming out here, it means your cooling system's working. Well, exhaust was coming out of there, which means exhaust was coming from the cylinder through the cooling passages out that port. No water was getting up to the engine. So we know that the motor's been overheated. The guy who traded the boat in, the valve cover is made out of plastic. It was all melted. So guy went to the dealership to go see if they would help him out, because they sold him a boat with a bad engine. And they wouldn't take my diagnosis, which I guess I don't blame them. I am certified to work on this kind of stuff, but would take my diagnosis, so he had to take it to a dealership that was out of town. The only place that would service these Honda engines was, I think, over an hour and a half away, so he took it all the way over there. They diagnosed the same thing and took the engine apart, and that's kind of where they left it. He was thinking about getting a new engine. He wasn't sure if he wanted to rebuild it. Kind of went back and forth a bunch of times. Ended up saying, yeah, let's rebuild it. I'll go ahead and do it for him, no problem. This has all been inspected. The deck on these cylinders is all within spec to use as far as any kind of warpage or anything like that. The cylinder head itself has been taken over to a machine shop. They have decked this. This is all nice and flat. Everything's within spec again. And it was checked for any kind of cracks or damage. The machine shop didn't find any. So we're good to go ahead and reuse that head. We're going to put this motor back together. We got new head gaskets, everything else. The owner did go through the carburetors already. I just reassembled some of the stuff that he couldn't figure out how to get back together. That's all done here on the intake side of things. I was actually working on this last night. I couldn't get any, or on Friday. Today is Monday. I was working on it. I couldn't get any work done on it because the dowel pins were in the head and the machinist took them out and never stuck them back in. So I couldn't actually get the head back on, because you have got to have these dowel pins. So went over to the machinist shop. He had them. We got them. So now we're going to get this motor put back together today. So there's a backstory on this engine. From this point on, we're just going to go and put this back together. I didn't take it apart, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to make sure that I get everything where it needs to go, meaning correct bolts in the correct spots, making sure everything goes where it's supposed to. You know, we got some components that still aren't tightened down. One of those things, kind of I consider it kind of a basket case when somebody brings me something with a box full of parts. I have already gone through and organized all of the hardware here, so at least I have an idea of what length bolts we have, what's going to go where. That really greatly improves my chances of getting them in the correct spots. You do want to be careful with bolts like this. If you're going to be running bolts down through the head into here, you want to make sure you don't run too long of a bolt through somewhere, punch into a water jacket, create another problem with the engine, all that good stuff on the day of being a mechanic. So let's start putting this together. Well, let's get to this. 1, 2, 3 bolts there. These are all head bolts. Those are all going to go there. See if we can get the head on and see how that all looks. Start getting this head gasket out. Okay. I'm not torquing these down or hitting them hard, just getting everything so it's touching, lightly holding. A couple of things I need to verify at the engine before we go all the way with this. Okay, we got the cylinder on. Make sure the cam's rotating, which it appears to be. Next, we're going to torque these head bolts. Unit. Go foot-pounds, that's what I'm used to. And 27.5, so what I'm going to do is go about half that. So 27, so let's go 14 is good enough. Okay, we're on 14 foot-pounds. These electronic snap-on wrenches are pretty sweet. When it starts reading, it's going to give us a torque value. You see it's going up here, 8, 9, 10, and the lights will go green when we hit 14. It's right there. It also vibrates to let me know. So I'm only doing these halfway. And we would kind of seat this all evenly, then I'll torque everything to its spec, and then these do require a 90-degree additional turn once it's torqued to the 27.5 foot-pounds. Okay, let's bump this up to 27, 28. So, head bolts are all torqued. I got the other smaller head bolts all torqued in sequence. Everything is good to go there. At this point, we're going to go ahead and set the timing on this engine. The customer told me that he had undone this and this had slipped, so I'm not sure what happened there. I'm gonna have to look through the manual and get the timing set with the crank and the cam. So we dig into that, I'll bring you guys back in for that. Pull that out. We need to get the flywheel put back on. I'm guessing those bolts go there with that guy. Line this guy, this dowel hole with that dowel there. Be careful not to damage anything. Okay, that's good. Torque these bolts down next. Alright, first thing I gotta do is figure out where top dead center is on this thing. So grab some sockets. I'm gonna pull the spark plugs out. Once the spark plug's out, I will be able to I'll probably use this to stick down in the spark plug hole and feel where we're at. 18. Oh man, I'll put them things in. There's the timing marks. So top dead center lines up for the post right there. I see that now. That's what I was looking for. So both of our lobes are pointed away, which means these are now fully closed. For compression, because we're at top dead center, which is correct. I gotta figure out if they actually pulled this gear off. Customer said that he had actually pulled this gear off, and if that's the case, and I just need to make sure that this cam gear is located properly. I'm thinking it is because of the cam position. It's really loud. It's kind of late, trying not to wake my neighbors up.
At this point, I had verified that everything was in its correct position, so we're going to go ahead and install the timing belt and officially set the final timing on this motor.
All right, so tensioner is now torqued down. We've got the belt on. Everything is good here. We have got that timing mark lined up with that arrow dead on. Also have this arrow lined up with the arrow down below, so those are both lined up dead on. Timing is good. We're going to turn this engine over a couple of times and make sure that everything's clearing and we don't have any clearance problems. Okay, here we go. Let's go turn this thing over. Need to rotate it the proper way. So we're going to watch for this. So basically this will go around twice and then we should end up back exactly where we are. Okay, there's rotation 1. No binding, nothing hitting. There is rotation 2. So dead nuts aligned. Dead nuts aligned. Everything is good. Let's double check our torque on that guy. And once the torque is verified on that, we have got the head installed. It's torqued. Flywheel is torqued. Alright, so let's get this on properly. That's good. Alright, we got that in. I guess the old angle of the dangle wasn't right. I do have to go through and figure out what goes where here as far as hardware. Again, I didn't pull any of this apart, but I got I think a decent idea of what goes where. Alright, well, that was kind of a pain in the rear. All of the linkages down here for the choke and stuff, they kind of fell apart as I got the intake put back on, so I had to undo all of this, get all of these linkages hooked back on properly. We now have the throttle hooked up, which I can't move. There we go. Throttle's good to go. We pull on the choke. You can see the choke is all actuating properly. And then electronically, so you can do manually or electronically on this one. We're all good to go there. Let's see here. Timing is good. We need to get the rest of the intake bolts in and torqued. And need to get this fuel pump in there and torqued. And then we are on to valve cover. We need to get this stuff hooked back up, new spark plugs in it, and anything else that's loose or hooked up. We'll know shortly if I'm out of bolts when I get this stuff assembled. We should be good to go. And we'll double check everything and see where we're at. Okay, so last night the camera died. I went ahead and finished buttoning up the rest of this engine, double checking everything we needed. Today we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up. I've already got it in a bucket of water. I'm gonna let it run, make sure everything is good, verify our temperatures, and we'll be ready to go for a lake test. Boat has been running for, I don't know, probably 15 minutes, running out of the bucket, cycling water through it. Check this out. Water coming out here. Water down there. Water there. All right, you guys will have to forgive me, but here we are. We're out cruising on the lake. We took the boat out for about an hour. We didn't have any issues. He had a lot of issues with starting, obviously keeping it running, overheating. All those issues have been solved. The motor ran at a great temperature, ran with full power, high to low RPMs, no issues whatsoever. The only adjustments we had to make were some carburetor adjustments, which I wasn't a part of that part of it anyway. So our fix was the fix it needed. Boat's up and running great. So if you guys have followed along this far in the video, thank you so much. Welcome to Stover's Motors. We'll see you later.